What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to the channel. We're going to do a little bit of a mock draft Monday here as, fortunately enough for me, my beloved Philadelphia Eagles are heading towards Super Bowl in 2 weeks against the Kansas City Chiefs, but 30 other teams are now shifting into mock draft season, so I think it's a perfect time to drop my mock draft 5.0. I'm not just telling you to stay on the video. This is easily, and we've been able to refine it over 4 previous mock drafts. I think this is my favorite one to date. I think this could happen. I think this mock draft could age very, very well come April. I think the toughest thing for this draft, we're not doing any trades. I don't really enjoy doing mock drafts with trades until we start to get an idea of free agency, and because there's just this assumption that these teams are going to be aggressive to trade up without factoring the fact that they could address said need that they could be trading up for in a mock draft in free agency, and I don't really like doing it till that point. So there's no trades. We had everyone kind of staying put, and I still don't hate. I can make all these picks with a sense of conviction that I haven't really had in any of my previous mock drafts, because I've been looking through the comments. I've been looking at seeing who you guys' favorite teams are. If you defend the pick, you love the pick, you hate the pick, who you think we should potentially change up. I think all that feedback has come into a mock draft that I absolutely love. So without further ado, pick 1-1. We have the Tennessee Titans. And we know the Titans came out and said they want to draft someone generational. And there's only 2 players that fit that bill. And I don't think they're going to go with Travis Hunter. I'm going to have them go with the edge rusher, Abdul Carter out of Penn State. 6'3", 250, 24 TFLs, 12 sacks, had 43 hurries. And he's going to test very well, man. He's just another one of these Penn State freak athletes. He's an absolute game wrecker. Edge is almost as big of a need for the Titans as is quarterback. I think the plan is probably for them, get a veteran, get Will Levis. Maybe you could still continue to refine Will Levis a little bit. That ship could sail. Bring in another veteran quarterback, steady the ship. I just don't think there's a quarterback worthy of trading, and I also don't think there's going to be teams that want to jump up to that pick 1-1 to get a quarterback. So if you're stuck here, get a pass rusher that would, almost consensus be a top 3 pick any year, and get him at number 1 and improve your pass rush. Pick number 2, we have the Cleveland Browns, and I'm going to have them select Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. I think this is a move to save the job of Stefanski. I think Stefanski and all that front office knows it's do or die. I think number 2, you have to sell this project on the rumor. Is Myles Garrett going to hand in his trade request? Is he sick and tired of losing? Right? I think what Philadelphia has done with Saquon Barkley is going to be a movement across the league. All these people and players that have been like Max Crosby's, your Myles Garrett's, these are going to be people like, man, that's so nice watching Saquon go from, I'm not going to troll it, like poverty, organization. We're a bad team, going from a bad team that just hasn't won, and then you go to a legit serious team, and you're winning and you see him show. I think there's a lot of that potentially going on in Cleveland. And I think you get a young franchise quarterback in Cam Ward. 6'3", 225 pounds, 4,300 yards, had over 40 touchdowns last year, 67% completion percentage. He's accurate. His pocket presence is elite. Legendary borderline. And I think that not only is it going to save the job of the front office, it's going to convince some of these stars that, hey, we're going to turn this thing around. And 3, I think the only way you solve what's going on with Cleveland, because you have to continue to navigate that disgusting Deshaun Watson contract, is you got to find a way to win with a rookie quarterback contract. And I think Cam Ward makes the most sense here to Cleveland. I think we all know that there's the do not draft list for the Sanders family. I think Cleveland is firmly on that list. So Cam Ward might be the only option at quarterback for them at this spot. And I think that'd be interesting. Really, really exciting to see that, they got Jerry Jeudy's kind of emerged. You got David Njoku, who's a really nice safety net. You'd love to see Nick Chubb get healthy and stay with the Browns. You'd love to see the O-line maybe, start second round. Let's go improve the offensive line a little bit or use that in free agency. They got to do something. And I think this is kind of the only pick that makes sense for the Browns to take a step forward, in my opinion. Now at pick number 3, we have the New York Giants. We talk about Shedeur Sanders, do not draft list. I think the Giants are also on that list. Now, there was a viral clip a little bit. Brian Daboll dapping up Shedeur at the Shrine Bowl. Could be something there. But in my opinion, I think they will consider Travis Hunter at pick 3. And I hate that pick. I'd much rather draft Shedeur Sanders as an Eagle fan, because what if Travis Hunter can carry over to the league? I think he probably will. Corner, wide receiver weapon out of Colorado, 6'1", 185 pounds. As a wide receiver, 96 catches, 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns. As a DB, 4 picks, 11 PBUs, had a 90 PFF grade at corner. I think that's how you utilize him. I think you hear enough smart people talk about it, and it makes so much sense. You cannot do both. You're going to have to be, and I think he's going to have to be, a full-time corner. He is corner 1 lockdown corner. You'd like to see maybe bulk up a little bit too. 185 pounds. Can we get close to 200? Because he is a little bit of a slim reaper back there. But you play him at corner, and then if you're thinking best case scenario, right, you look at that offense for the New York Giants. You have Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot, who can catch 700 balls for 2.2 yards per carry. You got Malik Neighbors, who's a bona fide wide receiver 1. I think you can have Travis Hunter be that wide receiver 2. You have special packages. He has the most insane cardio I've ever seen for a football player. So I think you could have him start and be a lockdown corner, and then you have him sprinkle in. And I wouldn't even say it's fair to say sprinkle him in some plays on offense. I don't think it's realistic to say he's playing wide receiver 2 every single play on offense, but I think you have more than enough packages that he is getting on the field very consistently offensively as that, ideally, a wide receiver 2. You can have all of them out. You could have Wan'Dale in the slot, Neighbors on one side, Travis Hunter on the other for, even if it's just like an every other drive thing. Like that, and I think we'll give Daboll credit. I think he's creative enough offensively to make that work. I think that would be the pick for me if I was a Giant fan. I would rather that than Shedeur Sanders, especially because I think New York might be on that do not draft list. They're going to hit him with an Eli Manning. They're finally paying for that. Next up, we have number 4, the New England Patriots, where I'm going to have them select Ted McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona. 6'5", 210 pounds, 84 catches, 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns last year. Elite profile, great yards after the catch. I think this is a little bit of not the same prospects, but the same kind of spot that the Cincinnati Bengals were. Do you draft Jamar Chase? Do you draft Penei Sewell? They went with Chase, and there's always kind of been that debate. However, I think in this year, because Travis Hunter's kind of his own thing, McMillan is wide receiver 1. But I don't think there is a defined tackle 1 in this year's class. You have Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks, who I'm going to assume whoever drafts them is going to play them at tackle. But Will Campbell has short arms, and Kelvin Banks is not your prototypical offensive tackle. And he's like, what is he, barely 6'3", a little bit bigger. Then you got Josh Simmons, who's coming off a season-ending knee injury. And then, then you're just getting into guys like, okay, they're probably not going to go at this spot anyway. They're not top 5 picks in that discussion. So there's no clear tackle, but there's a clear wide receiver. So I think this is a safe direction to go for the Patriots. You have now a bona fide wide receiver 1. Who's your wide receiver 1 right now? You don't have an answer. You got Pop Douglas, who's probably a mid wide receiver 2. You can fine, put him in there. But everywhere else, they missed on their young rookie wide receiver picks last year. Get McMillan at wide receiver 1 and improve the offensive line everywhere else, be it free agency or your other picks. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars at pick number 5. I'm going to have them select Will Johnson, corner from Michigan. He is kind of your blue chip build of a shutdown corner, can play on an island, 6'2", 200 pounds. He only played 6 games this year, but in those 6 games, he had 2 pick sixes. Jags need corner help. A lot of corner help. He is plug and play and corner 1. I mean, you still got Tyson Campbell, so that could be a nice little duo there on the outside and improve that Jags defense. I mean, they could go, they got the offensive head coach, but I've been kind of mocking Travis Hunter them there. That if that's in play, you can kind of swap that out a little bit. But I think very safe pick there for the Jags to get the best corner, pure corner in this year's class. Pick 6, we have the Vegas Raiders, and Tom Brady gets his quarterback. Shedeur Sanders, we know that they're texting buddy throughout the year. I think this is going to be it at pick 6 or move it up a couple spots to secure that they can get Sanders. I think that's the play for Vegas. I think Tom Brady's going to want that. He's going to be pissed off that he didn't get Ben Johnson. I think you got Pete Carroll now to kind of be the culture builder, and I feel like Pete Carroll can handle you bring in someone like that, the personality and whatever's going to come extra with Shedeur Sanders. I am personally a big Shedeur Sanders fan. 6'2", 215, 4,100 yards, 37 touchdowns, 74% completion percentage. The PFF nerds gave him a 90-plus grade. He's a very efficient quarterback. I think he has sensational touch on his throws. His patience is on point. Vegas offensive line's not brutal. They have some nice investments there. Jackson Power-Johnson, Colton Miller. Not a bad situation. Got to find him some help at wide receiver. Maybe you can do that in free agency. Maybe Tom Brady can work a little bit of magic. But I think Shedeur to Vegas is certainly a team that's not on his do not draft if I had to assume. And I think that'd be an interesting storyline. Pick number 7, we have the New York Jets. And if you just watched my Jets realistic review, this is the move that we made. And we're going to have them select Mason Graham, the D lineman from Michigan, 6'3", 320 pounds, 7 TFLs, 3.5 sacks, 20 hurries last year. And I think him long-term, put it simply, him and Quentin Williams on that D-line for the next foreseeable future is going to help that Jets defense get back. You got the new defensive head coach again. You're trying to run it back with I'm I don't want to say they failed to learn their lesson from Salah because they're different players, different coaches. But I'm surprised the Jets didn't go an offensive mind just to see if that could turn it around a little bit. But you're going defense, and let your defensive head coach improve the trenches with a top 10 pick. Carolina up next at pick number 8. I'm going to have them go a little bit of a reach, a little bit of a project. But Michael Williams, the edge rusher from Georgia, was banged up a little bit last year, but it has the traits. He's a prototype. 6'5", 265 pounds, 9 TFLs, 5 sacks, 15 hurries. He's going to probably test out the gym. Incredibly long, and that is just these guys just go in this range. I mean, Travon Walker pretty much did not light college football up, but he had the traits, and maybe a little bit long of a burn. I think most Jag fans would rather Aiden Hutz in this situation. But Travon Walker has developed slowly into a hell of a player for the Jags. I feel like you're getting that a little bit in Michael Williams because Panthers desperately need edge rush help. But if you're looking who else, you got James Pierce Jr., you got Mike Green from Marshall, you got Shamar Stewart, Walter Nolan, Jalen Walker's like a hybrid scouting from I think it's kind of a crapshoot. So I think when you're at this top 10 pick, this is where you get like the athlete that you can refine into a player. I think that would be very interesting for the Carolina Panthers. Pick number 9, we have the New Orleans Saints. I'm going to have them get James Pierce Jr. This is a little bit higher than a lot of kind of mock drafts have him going, but the expectations are for him to test out the gym at the combine. He's 6'5", 245, 13 TFLs, 7.5 sacks, 43 hurries. He's been one of the most consistent pass rushers in SEC play. Now, you're getting a pass rusher. He is not great against the run. Could be an element that he, eventually develops. I imagine he will once he comes to the pros. But for a pure pass rush standpoint, this is going to be a guy that can absolutely get double-digit sacks down the stretch. And New Orleans needs to figure out their pass rush because right now they kind of have some young guys that aren't really showing much, and they have some veterans that don't have a successor yet in place. And I think Pierce could potentially be that fit at pick number 9. The Chicago Bears at pick number 10. We're going to have them get Will Campbell, lineman from LSU. Some people think he's a tackle. Some people think he's a guard. I think for the Bears and how their team's built, he likely could play guard. But the fact he had guard tackle versatility for a top 10 pick, you're not going to be mad at that. 6'6", 325. Yeah, protect Caleb Williams. Kind of what you need to do. And I think the same comes right here, rolling with the 49ers to pick 11, going Kelvin Banks, tackle and or potentially guard from Texas. 6'4", 320 pounds. I think if you're looking at this from the Niners standpoint, again, pretty much anywhere on the O-line, they will take starter help. And best case scenario, Banks could be a Trent Williams successor. But I think improving the trenches for both those teams at pick 10 and 11 make a whole lot of sense. Now, there's only 2 picks, I like to say, in this entire mock draft that are, of course, that's where you went. And I'm not really changing it. I have Dallas going Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty at 5'9", 215, maybe debatably should have been the Heisman Trophy winner, 2,700 total yards, 30 total touchdowns. But the Cowboys need a running back. And I think, I will say this right now, this is not my only running back I have going in the first round. Everyone is watching Saquon Barkley. Everybody is watching what the Baltimore Ravens did with Derrick Henry. Everybody's watching all these teams run the football again and the value of running back. And I think this is going to be a draft that's going to show that shift that if you are a very good and clearly going to be a very good running back in the NFL, there's no longer, you just still can't go in the first round because they don't anymore. Like that value has shot back up it's like NFTs, running backs. You got to buy now. It's hot. And you start with Jeanty here. Another pick that I hate. If you told me in hindsight this is how it goes. And in the NFC East, we got Ashton Jeanty and freaking Travis Hunter. I'm going to be mad a little bit as an Eagle fan. That would be an outstanding get for the Dallas Cowboys. Just a game changer. Absolute game wrecker. There's no way he's not, barring health issues, there is no way Jeanty is not a dynamic player in the NFL. Pick 13, we have the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to have them get Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia. I think he's still blue chip, but it does seem like, coming off a little bit of a meh year for Georgia. Nothing too crazy. 6'1", 205, 77 tackles, had a pick, but his versatility, he can play slot, he can play deep safety, he can play box safety. I think those are a lot of different traits of the Miami. Their safety room is not particularly good. Their secondary get better. I think in a perfect world, Miami could improve the trenches here, offensive line, defensive line. But I think the value represents itself in a blue chip caliber player in Malachi Starks at a position of need. Pick number 14, much like Ashton Jeanty of the Cowboys, here's kind of like your plug and play. I'm doing it every single time. I'm going to have them get Tyler Warren. They are going to continue the development of Anthony Richardson, you have to get him a safety net, and that is Tyler Warren. 6'6", 260, 104 catches, 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. Also, can line up and do a bunch of different roles, 200 yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. But I think ultimately, safety net for Anthony Richardson, a reliable pass catcher, big-bodied pass catcher that can also block, can be an asset in the run game because the Colts want to run the football with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. I think you get a lot of areas of improvement. Like if you're trying to tick off a bunch of boxes, you can tick off a lot of those boxes with a Tyler Ward selection for that Colts offense. Pick 15 with the Atlanta Falcons. This is where I kind of took a little bit of feedback from Falcon fans. I have been having to go Jalen Walker from Georgia, but they want more traditional pass rush. And if that's the case, I'm going to throw you Mike Green, the edge rusher from Marshall. Now, there are reports that there could be an off-the-field thing. Saw it on Reddit, so it's just Reddit. I'm not going to promote it in case it's not true. But he did get dismissed, we'll just say, from a team, well, I think it was Virginia Tech, I believe, or Virginia, one of the two, and then he went to Marshall. How he got dismissed, maybe that'll come to light, but the production is undeniable. Now, I think he looks a little light in the ass from what I've watched, but production is 6'4", 250, 23 TFLs, 17 sacks, 32 hurries. If you want production, you want to gamble on a guy that had big-time college production, and that could translate to the NFL. If you're chasing sacks, which is the number one thing Falcons defense wants, thought the field, all that stuff checks out, and he tests well, this is not going to be that much of a spicy selection. And if it hits, Atlanta has just drafted the second most productive well, not second, because he actually had more production than Abdul Carter. But let's be honest, it's Abdul Carter's clearly number one. But he would be the second most productive pass rusher in this year's class. Pick 16, we have the Arizona Cardinals. And I'm going to get a nose tackle here. Kenneth Grant out of Michigan. I think he's going to test very well athletically. 6'3", 340 pounds. It was on Bruce Feldman's freaks list. So I think he's going to test probably like a guy that weighs 40 pounds less than him. He had 7 TFLs, 3 sacks, and 23 hurries. I think just getting an anchor in the middle of that front for the Arizona Cardinals is a top priority, especially when you get a player that certainly is in that range and will absolutely be a day one starter for that Jonathan Gannon defense. We have the Cincinnati Bengals up at pick 17, and I'm going to have them select Nick Scarton, the edge rusher from Texas A&M. 6'4". Now, he's listed at 280. I've heard some reports from, I don't know if he's at the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl, that he's closer to like 265, 270. He's dropped a little bit of weight. But the Bengals need to find someone else that can rush the passer, not named Trey Hendrickson. I think Scarton should test well. 14 TFLs, 5 sacks, 28 hurries last year. Big-time SEC player. Had big production before he transferred to A&M. I think it was at Purdue, Wake Forest. One of those is coming to bell. But I think for the Cincinnati Bengals, going pass rush here, kind of looking at the board that's remaining, under the assumption that they're going to keep the wide receiver core together because they lose T. Higgins. You definitely could see, Burden, Ibuka, Golden. Those are kind of like the guys right now that are being talked about as first-round players. That could be in play. But I think at pick 17, you go with the best option to improve your pass rush. Pick 18, we have the Seattle Seahawks, and I'm going to have them select Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama. Guard is probably the biggest need for the Seattle Seahawks, and they go get a good one here in Booker. 6'5", 325, 0 sacks allowed last year. Your prototypical, pro-ready Alabama lineman, plug-and-play day one starter to improve that offensive line. Pick 19, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'm going to have them select Jalen Walker, linebacker from Georgia. Can he rush the passer? Yep. Can he play a little off-ball? Yep. Can kind of do it all. Wears a multitude of hats from that Georgia Bulldogs defense. And I think there you go. It looks like Todd Bowles is still going to be there. Defensive-minded coach. You can find a way to develop him. If you want to work on him as a pass rusher, you can do so. You want to kind of be a hybrid like maybe Zach Bond for the Philadelphia Eagles or Frankie Louvu for the Commanders. You could definitely kind of figure that out there for Jalen Walker to help out that Tampa Bay Bucs pass rush. At 11 TFLs, 6.5 sacks at 6'2", 245. So he's built like these hybrid players. I think Todd Bowles can work some magic. Pick 20, we have the Denver Broncos. I'm going to have them select Luther Burden, wide receiver from Missouri. I think the versatility here is going to be key. Sean Payton, the more you can do on offense, the more value you're going to bring. I think Sean Payton, honestly, would try to trade up for Tyler Warren. But if not, Burden is that Deebo Samuel-style player that can line up in the backfield, can run the football, can run slants. You can take it to the house, big-time yards after the catch. Maybe not a great route tree, but very solid hands. Production dipped a little bit this season. He had 600 yards, almost 700 yards, and 6 total touchdowns. But if you took him from last year, this time, he was a consensus top 10 pick. I think the value is certainly there for the Denver Broncos. They could look at tight end and Loveland for sure, but Maybe not at this spot here in the first round. I think we'll change it up a little bit and have them try to target a wide receiver because you have the emergence of Mims as your deep threat. You got Cortland Sutton, who's not getting any younger, but the chemistry there with Bo Nix is awesome, and I feel like Luther Burden. Then you got Franklin as well from Oregon, like just a healthy wide receiver room, and the more you can do for Burden in that case with Sean Payton's offense. We have 21, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to select Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. I think he offers first-round talent and a sense of stability that like the big-time wide receivers in Pittsburgh just have never had. If you're going to go with Justin Fields at quarterback, whatever they're going to do, the more weapons you compare them, because you have George Pickens, who's an absolute wild card. Calvin Austin's kind of emerged a little bit as like a weapon. But who else do they got there? I think Egbuka, very safe route runner. I think he's absolutely capable of being a 1,000-yard receiver. Maybe he'll never be a wide receiver one in discussions of the NFL. I don't think Emeka Egbuka is ever going to be a top 10 wide receiver. But I think when you're picking in the 20s, if you can get a guy that's going to be a low-end wide receiver one, a guy that's a reliable 1,000 yards, reliable 10 touchdown, I think that's literally what he had this year. Emeka Egbuka, 6'1", 205, 81 catches, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. I feel like that's what's going to be in the NFL, and that is definitely worth a pick here, especially for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just imagine right now you have such a volatile player in George Pickens. When he's good, he's good. Maybe Egbuka can help him a little bit, calm down, and get some more consistency. But Pittsburgh is dying for a consistent wide receiver. And I think that's exactly what you get in Emeka Egbuka. Chargers up next, picking at pick 22. And we're going to have Harbaugh get a Michigan boy here. Colston Leveland at tight end for the Chargers. 6'5", 245 pounds, 56 catches, 56 catches, 580 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Now, there's been some people, like he's kind of, for me, when I've watched him play, reminds me of Zach Ertz a little bit. Some people have talked about maybe him, scouts, can he play wide receiver? I think you have a big slot at a tight end position, and that is definitely what the Chargers look for. Tight end is going to be a big-time need for them coming into this offseason, and I think this would be an absolute home run selection, pairing Michigan boy with Michigan leader in Harbaugh. Pick number 23, we have the Green Bay Packers, and I'm going to select Jahdae Barron, the corner from Texas, 5'11", 200 pounds, at 11 PBUs, 5 picks, a 90-plus PFF grade. Out of all the corners I watched this year, I was most impressed by him. Well, like every time Texas was playing, he was making plays. I think for the Green Bay Packers, a lot of uncertainty with that secondary. What is going to go on with Jair Alexander in this offseason? My gut probably says he could be looking for a different team. So Green Bay needs to reload in the secondary, and I think that is really, really nice value at pick 23 for a do-it-all corner. Pick 24, we have the Minnesota Vikings. You want a hot pick? I'm going to select a Marion Hampton, running back from North Carolina. You had a rental on Aaron Jones, regardless of if it's Darnold, which is kind of looking a little unlikely after that playoff run, but you go McCarthy, get him someone he can just hand the ball off to. When things aren't working, just fully flush out that offense. I think I'm honestly looking around at the remaining picks. This is almost like, it's kind of a crapshoot in terms of needs for the Vikings. So why not just go with the guy that probably will be the most impactful player next season for a team that is desperate to go on a run? Hampton is incredible. He is my second. I mean, there's great run. This is an outstanding running back class, and I'm never going to entertain the idea that Hampton is better than Genty. Genty is one. But I think Hampton, I think Henderson, I think Johnson, Judkins, Scatabo, Devin Neals. Like, there are so many running backs that are going to be productive in this year, but Hampton is special. 6'1", 220, 2,000 yards and 17 touchdowns. Like, if Ashton Genty didn't exist, we'd be talking Hampton as like, he's RB1, this guy's going to go in the first round. It's just because of Genty kind of makes every other running back this year look not as great. But Hampton on a bad North Carolina team, it just felt like any given week. He's giving them 200 yards of production and 3 touchdowns. I think for the Minnesota Vikings, it is a luxury pick at this spot to go running back, but running back is a big-time need, and I think Hampton is an easy plug-and-play starter for them. Pick 25, we have the Houston Texans, and I'm going to have them select Armand Membu, lineman, play tackle and guard from Mizzou, should test very well. He's going to be one of these guys that's certainly going to be entering the conversation for most athletic linemen in the draft. 0 sacks allowed, had a 90 PFF grade, big-time athlete, positional versatility. Kind of look at the Texans depth chart. I think you're going to look at him starting at guard potentially, which is a big need. But I think just viewing him as a lineman, there's a lot of value there at pick 25. And with his athletic profile, the more you can do. Because that line was god-awful. Got exposed in the playoffs. Next up, we have the Rams at pick 26. And we're going to have them get Shavon Ravel Jr., the corner from East Carolina. I think this is going to be kind of your Quinyon Mitchell small school corner, but everything else looks great. Maybe we give him a chance type pick. Ravel is only going to be here, if you're trusting the word of scouts around the world, because of the injury. Had a season-ending injury, only played 3 games. In his 3 games this year, the 6'3", 190-pound height, weight, speed, lockdown corner had 2 picks, 2 PBUs, in 3 starts. There you go. Rich get richer. This seems like an ultimate Rams selection where, like, if Ravel was healthy and tested, easygoing, 10 picks earlier? Maybe. So the Rams finally having a first-round pick, they are going to make sure they get the most out of that. And at a position of need, get a guy who could end up in the discussion, honestly, for best corner in this class. I think the success of, like, Sauce Gardner, I think the success of Quinyon Mitchell, it don't matter what school you come from. If you're a lockdown corner, those traits have been translating to the NFL. I think Ravel is definitely in that conversation. Pick 27, we have the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm going to have them select Walter Nolan, the former 5-star recruit from Ole Miss. I think he can play defensive end on their scheme. 6'3", 305. He had 14 TFL, 6.5 sacks, 25 hurries this year. I think he's just another high upside, big-time athlete, big motor type pick for Baltimore. Which, like, oh, maybe he won't have a ridiculous rookie season, but I bet 2-3 years down the line he'll be a dude that's getting, him and Matabuke just flirting with double-digit sacks for 3-4 defensive ends. Pick number 28, we have the Detroit Lions. And I'm going to have the Detroit Lions select Jack Sawyer, edge rusher from Ohio State. We have a player 6'5", 260, 9 TFLs, 9 sacks, 38 hurries. Should test well. I believe he was, if not a 5-star recruit, like close to a 5. A very impressive player from Ohio State. I definitely think he certainly stylistically kind of feels like a Dan Campbell player. Feels like a player Dan Campbell's going to pound the table for, and at a gigantic position of need here for the Detroit Lions to get someone else other than Aiden Hutchinson who can rush the passer. Next up, we have the Washington Commanders at pick number 29. Thought about this pick for a minute. I think ultimately you got to get more weapons going for Jaden Daniels. Is Zach Ertz going to retire? Because Zach Ertz is Scary Terry. And Scary Terry, he's not getting any younger, but you got Scary Terry at wide receiver 1. Their second go-to guy was Zach Ertz. Is he back next year? Maybe not. Who else you got? Olamide Zaccheaus. Great role player. Don't want him as a wide receiver 2. Luke McCaffrey didn't show a whole lot this year outside of being a return man. You got Jamison Crowder. Like, I thought he retired. I think finding more receiving weapons, like just other people that can make plays other than just Scary Terry. I think that's the top priority. And Golden, after the year that he had at Texas, is a big-time. I mean, you still got Trey Harris here, who has big-time SEC production. You got Ayo Manor, the Canadian. Dog, probably, second-round pick. Great run blocker, great receiver. Bond's going to have the speed. Restrepo is more of a slot guy. I think Golden is making a lot of sense. 6 feet tall, 195 pounds, 58 catches for 1,000 yards and 9 tuds. Has some ridiculous highlight reel catches on his resume. And I just kind of look at the Commanders and go, hey, got to watch him yesterday get absolutely destroyed by my Philadelphia Eagles. This is not the time or place for that. But I kind of look at what went wrong in a way. And I feel like, you got to cut down on the turnovers, obviously. But having younger weapons that can grow and develop with Jaden Daniels, that would kind of be an area that I definitely want to address early than often in this draft. And I think with Golden at wide receiver, you might be able to get that. Pick 30 be the Buffalo Bills. And I'm going to have the Bills select Shamar Stewart, defensive lineman from A&M. I think D-line and get more pressure at the quarterback is a need for Bills. Seems like that's the area Bills fans want to go. So how about just a high upside freak of nature? How about a guy that's 6'6", 290 pounds, should test very, very well. 6 TFLs, 2 sacks, 33 hurries. So just kind of missed out. The sack numbers aren't gaudy, but he was very much a disruptor and getting after the quarterback last season for the Aggies. I think for Buffalo, I think for Sean McDermott, he's got to see another pass rusher that he's going to be able to try to grow and develop the same way. Maybe it's a little bit of a slow burn, but they've had luck with these upside guys, right? Epinez is finally putting it all together. Greg Rousseau, project guy, putting it all together. Stewart could probably be the next name in that list. Now, finishing up the draft, we have, I don't agree with this order, but we have Philadelphia. It's just going off Vegas odds, is what it is. For the Eagles at pick 31, edge rusher is the big need. I'm not going to lie. I think Howie Roseman is going to be much like myself. Howie Roseman, a Florida Gator. He's not going to get Uman Malayan. I like JT Tuamaliau. I don't know if I love him as a first-round player, but if we got him in the first round, I mean, dog, man. Every time I watch Ohio State play, he's been very impressive. I wouldn't hate that selection. I think Jahad Campbell and his versatility. I think if we lose Zach Bond, I think Jahad Campbell could potentially fill that role. I wouldn't hate that selection. If Slay retires, if they think Benjamin Morrison can bounce back, if he tests really well, that could totally be in play. But, we feel like we have good cover at corner right now. So, tight end's been a position to need. I think if there's a Loveland or somehow a Tyler Warren still on the board for the Eagles, that could be in play just to get more depth and a Dallas Goedert successor. But for me, I think at this spot, the edge rush value, the D-line value is not essentially there. I would be looking at getting a Lane Johnson replacement. Now, Simmons, this is one of those classic roll your eyes. Pick 18 on this site, C4. Of course he's last in the 32. You want him going to the Eagles. But you look around, Daniel Jeremiah, Dane Brugler, some of the people I regard as the best in the business, they have Simmons going in the back half of the first round. It's because, yes, he allowed 0 sacks this season, but he had a season-ending knee injury late October. So he's going to be a guy, is he going to be able to test? Is he going to be 100% to test? He could be a guy that has a late pro day to get out there. But if you view him as a guy that's not going to be ready to start right away, Philadelphia is the perfect landing spot. That could be our Lane Johnson successor. And if he gets healthy in time, we can look at competition at right guard if we can't re-sign Mekhi Becton. So I think for Philadelphia, the luxury pick for them is finding a Lane Johnson successor this year. If everything else, if edge rush, if we bring back Zach Baum, we don't get to look at Jahad Campbell. There's definitely options there depending on what they do and how they want to handle their roster. But I think a very safe pick at this spot, especially when the value is there. Grab a tackle that can join Jeff Stoutland, get that fifth-year option, and potentially succeed Lane Johnson and or handle whatever we decide to do with Mekhi Becton. I think the same is said here to finish up the mock draft at pick 32 with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'd rather them get Josh Connerly, offensive tackle from Oregon. 6'4", 315. Gave up only 1 sack last year, but pretty much played lights out down the stretch for Oregon. I think tackle is a gigantic need for the Kansas City Chiefs, so you go with another guy that is absolutely almost consensus a first round. I think Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, the versatility there is interesting. Ursery from Minnesota could also be in play. A lot of tackles on the board. I just figured maybe Kansas City would want to go with the most athletic. They tend to value the athletes at tackle versus the big maulers. Because I think that's what happened with Trey Smith. Trey Smith was a big mauler at tackle. They moved him inside the guard. But then you get the dude from BYU, Suamadia last year. He's just a big-time developmental athlete. I feel like stylistically, Connerly might check out. But I think a lot of tackles available for Philadelphia and Kansas City with the final 2 picks on this draft. So let them do what they do best. And that is just make sure they make the right pick. So there you go, fellas. That is my mock draft number 5 on the year. Would love to hear what you guys think about it in the comment section below. I think we did a pretty damn good job. There's not one of these picks. I would say the picks that I don't love in hindsight, I think Matthew Golden has to test well for me to be like, yeah, I buy him being a lock of the first round. But a lot of people more smarter than me, have him going in the first round right now. And I like what I saw from him in the couple Texas games I watched last year. I stuck my neck out here on Hampton. He's going to be a dog. He's going to be a very, very good player in the league. I think maybe, Luther Burden going to the Broncos could be slightly hot take. Tyler Booker, a guard that might not be a consensus first rounder, even though it's a big position need for the Seattle Seahawks. That could be contentious. You got Mike Green at pass rush. Again, the off the field. Is that going to check out? But if not, you're getting super, super production at that edge rush position. But again, James Pierce, that's probably going higher than a lot of mock drafts I've seen lately. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about this one in the comment section below. We'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, with a new Madden realistic rebuild. I just didn't have the time to get a rebuild out today. Still having a little bit of NFC Championship hangover. But I hope you guys did enjoy. I'd love to read your feedback in the comment section below. If it is your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. Until next time, it's your boy C4 saying peace and love ya. Have a good one.